Hello artists! Today we are going to talk about this landscape by David Hockney, and we're going to talk about how to make a line landscape. That means a landscape using all different kinds of lines, a variety of kinds of lines. This landscape was by David Hockney, and he made this landscape in 1980. But he was born in England in 1937. And even though he was born in England, he loved California. This picture shows the hills of Hollywood, and he loved the bright colors, and he was considered a pop artist because of all his bright colors and his use of patterns in his landscape. He loved Picasso and Matisse, and you can see some similarities because they love to use bright colors also. If you look really closely, you can see different lines and textures throughout his landscape. Up here on this side, you can tell the things in this side of the picture are really close to us. You can tell that this structure right here, it's touching the bottom of the page, so it's really close to us. This is the foreground of the picture. And as we get further back into space out here, this is the middle ground, and then the hills way out here are the background. So things in the front are the foreground, the things in the middle are the middle ground, and the things really far away, really small, that's the background. Throughout David Hockney's landscape, I see lots of different patterns and textures. I see lots of different types of lines in all of these different hills. So we're going to talk about how we can make a line landscape, and it can be landscape style like this, or it can be vertical. We're going to make two different kinds, and you can pick the composition that you really like the best. So I'm going to put this here off to the side, and we're going to make a horizontal landscape over here, and then we'll try a different one that is vertical. So I'm going to do a horizontal one over here on this side. So let's pretend that this is my paper. And remember, I want to show a foreground, middle ground, and background. I want to show it going back farther and farther into space so I can show a lot of land. Remember, a landscape is a picture that shows land. So let's say that in the foreground, there's an area here. And then the middle ground, let's say I have some more hills. And then really far away, let's pretend that really far away I have some mountains, and they look small because they are in the background. So the farther something is away, the smaller it will be. Like if I put some trees on these mountains, they'd be really small. So let's pretend that these dots here, these are trees. Remember, in this landscape, I'm going to show all different types of lines. So I got some dotted lines here on my mountains really far away. Let's talk about the area here though in the foreground, really close up. Let's say I want to show a house and it's really close up. I can make the roof of my house and not even the whole thing. Like maybe I just want to show a part of the house so that I can show it so close up I can't even see the bottom. Maybe there's a second story up here. Okay, and all this I could say is grass, or I could even add another line here, and I could say that this is like a river or something. And to show that this one is a river, I could add some wavy lines. So it doesn't really matter where you're choosing to put which line, but you're showing some space and we've got some overlapping. Let's say that this area is going to be all grass, and I want it maybe to blow in the wind, so I'm going to make some lines here that are grass. Well, if I'm doing large, long grass here, I want to make some things that are smaller farther away so I can tell a difference between the foreground, the middle ground, and the background. Okay, and it's okay if it goes past this line because remember this area is overlapping the middle ground. Okay, so in the foreground I have lots of long, like blowing grass. And in the middle ground, I've got a river. Let's say that also in my middle ground, I want to show some flowers so I can make some curved lines. And it's okay if they don't really look like flowers because there's a lot of overlapping happening. But I'm gonna say that these our flowers. Remember, it's kind of abstract. David Hockney's landscape didn't look like real life, so yours doesn't have to look like real life either. And then, let's say in this area, I'm going to make a different type of flower. I'm going to make some swirl flowers. Because my landscape is going to show all different types of lines. It's going to have a variety. If I put stripes in every single part of my landscape, that would be a pattern, that would be a kind of line, but it wouldn't show variety. So I want to make sure my landscape shows variety. Okay, and then let's say I want this area to be a different kind of line. Let's say I want to have some, oh, I don't know, maybe I want to have some zigzag lines in this part. Okay, so you're just going to repeat those lines however you want them to be in your landscape. And so I'm going to move a little quicker here. Let's say that this is going to be some curved lines or bumpy lines. Okay, and then maybe far away you're going to have like some dash lines or something back here. So I want it to look really small, far away. So I'm going to make some things that are small. And I haven't done any diagonal lines, so I'm going to do some diagonal lines on some of my mountains. But I don't want to do all of them. I don't want them to look all the same. Let's say that I want some of my mountains to have some wavy lines. So I'm going to, well, it could be kind of like layers of snow or something. Okay, and I'm going to add some more dots to this one. And let's say the last one, I could make this like a wall or something, so I'm going to make like castle lines. Kind of another layer of space going back. And I can continue that as much as I want to there. So you're going to create a pattern landscape with lots of a variety of patterns. Okay, it doesn't have to be landscape style like this one. It could be vertical if you want it to be vertical. So I'm gonna have David Hockney's landscape up there out of the way, and you could make yours vertical if you want to. So it could be upright like this, and it doesn't have to have this many layers. Maybe it's only gonna have 3 or 4 layers. That would be fine. Let's say that I want to make like a tree hanging out here. This is in the foreground, it's really close up. Let's say in the middle ground, I'm going to have some kind of a fence. And then another layer kind of going back farther. And then let's say that I'm going to have this one here. This, the farthest, really far away in the background, let's say that's going to be sky. So I'm going to show that it's sky by having a sun, maybe a cloud up here. Okay, and then I can start to see how my space is going to look. I'm going to go ahead and repeat these to show my fence. So I guess these vertical lines could count as a repeating line, but I think it would be cool if we had, you know, some things going on the ground below it. Like, remember how we talked about different textures of lines? We could show grass. And that could repeat throughout this whole area. And then maybe this one is going to have, you know, the bumpy lines or something. And I want you to fill that whole space. We don't want it to look exactly like real life. We want it to be kind of abstract. And maybe this one, you know, could repeat. Okay, so I'm still showing space. I'm showing the foreground in the front, the closest stuff to us. Middle ground is in the middle, and the background is really far away in the back. Right now I have mountains or hills, and then I have even more space down here, so I could bring my mountains all the way back like this, or I could show that this is like another type of ground here, or maybe it's a river or something. It depends on what kind of texture you want to add. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so you can choose what you want to add to your landscape, what kind of lines or patterns. Maybe you have other ideas that I didn't put in here. So for your patterned landscape, I want to see some different kinds of lines. Remember, that means a variety, and I want to see space. That means you have a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. As it goes back into space, things are getting smaller and smaller. It's your choice when you're done drawing what kind of materials you want to use to add color. Maybe you have watercolors and Sharpies, or maybe you have just crayons and colored pencils. You want to do a mixture. That's totally up to you. So it's your choice what materials you want to use for your landscape. Can't wait to see what you create.